To mask or not to mask, that is the question. Do you want to wear a mask? Do you not want to wear a mask? Should it be enforced? Should it be enforced? I can't look. What I'm saying is the issue of masks has become politicized, basically along the lines of left v right. I would say categories that are becoming increasingly irrelevant as politics and culture reach some sort of bizarre post-COVID tipping point. Let's have a look at some content around this mask debate and see what the history of mask and face concealment is all about. Would you wear a mask? Would you not wear a mask?
Here's the question for you. Is this face mask rule, which comes into effect in a week's time, enforceable by a fine of £100? Is that state control by the back door?
State control by the back door. Don't be so childish. He looked very serious before he's even responded. Toby Young, didn't he?
It does seem very censorious. I was very disappointed that Boris Johnson in particular should have mandated face coverings when he wrote a column in 2018 in which he defended the right of employers to prevent Muslim employees from wearing the full face covering.
This man is, of course, referring to the 2017 ruling that employers were allowed to ban workers from wearing any political, philosophical or religious signs, including headscarves. Interesting, isn't it, how that alters? Now, of course, it's underwritten materially, practically, medically. With the wearing of masks is a medical issue to protect people. But notice how quickly things become symbolically, and because of their symbolism, notice how they change. I'll give you a clear example. Remember the applauding for the NHS? There was a point where applauding for the NHS, if you didn't do it, you were kind of like a social pariah. And then it started to seem like applauding for the NHS was ridiculous, didn't it? And sarcastic. The wearing of masks, I remember at the beginning of COVID, was like, oh, you don't need to wear masks, masks don't do anything. And now it's being mandated by law. So it's not entirely pragmatic. In fact, political arguments are always, or frequently at least, made on the basis of pragmatism, not just this is our opinion. This is there's reason, rationale. This is the legacy of enlightenment, that reason and rationale are what underwrites our system. But the complication is, of course, that human beings are not singularly and solely rational beings. There are aspects to our consciousness, our behavior, our being that are way beyond rationale. Is it rational to give your life for your country? Is it rational to save the life of someone and risk your own safety? Is it rational to fall in love? Is it rational to gamble or to drink alcohol? We are not rational beings. I think that as I see these stories evolve and develop, what it makes me realize is that the systems that we live within are no longer equipped to deal with the complexity of technology and the ability of people to communicate instantaneously, recognizing, therefore, that there are so many diverse needs and tribes and wants that we can't be any longer housed under giant systems of governance. Furthermore, the earlier bans of hijabs and hoodies, do you remember that one? Hoodies, don't wear hoodies, hoodies are bad. It's a partner to the continual surveillance of the modern age. We're always on camera, we are always being watched. If we're not being surveyed by private security or by the state, we're filming ourselves, e.g. right now. Constant surveillance. When you have people continually observe the most private thing, the self, being who you are, the intimacy of your actuality, is somehow sheened, invaded, impossible to connect with. I do think it's interesting when things like this become mandated. Let's have a look at some of the sort of online chitter chatter from the folk that talk about such things. It's trending on Twitter in the light of the new law. Talk radio. Should masks be compulsory in shops? 65% of people said no, but that's a talk radio survey. I mean, it has a particular set of listeners. This man here says, quotes Robert Higgs, ultimately nothing drives the herd so powerfully as fear, and fear triggers support for authoritarian leaders. Thanks, Robert Higgs, for that. No mandatory muzzles, that person says. Man, I don't know. What do you think? What's being revealed to you? What do you think? What do you feel about it? I mean, I suppose the point of the mask is to prevent the spread and infection of COVID. The point of state authority is the sustenance of the state. So there's an intersection here. Yes, there are I mean, aren't you increasingly thinking as this thing goes on, it doesn't make sense? The things that you're allowed to do, the things you're not allowed to do, the places you're allowed to go. You can go to the hairdressers, you can't go to the gym. You can do this, but you can't do that. Do that, stand apart, stand here. Put a mask. It's becoming sort of like ritualized, abstract, like the god of COVID is appeased through gesture, ritual and ceremony, as opposed to an actual pragmatic response. This, I suppose, is because we don't know how to pragmatically respond, and because we've become so divorced from meaning and purpose in our nihilistic consumerist cultures that we create ritual and ceremony around actions and events that are ultimately meaningless. For example, sport. I'm a West Ham United fan. I'm wearing West Ham United shorts right now and a West Ham United tattoo that will be with me till my dying day and beyond it. But I recognise that what is being harnessed by my affection for West Ham are tribal impulses that are inborn and evolved as a result of human history that preceded the civilised era. Wearing a mask in certain circumstances will be absolutely practical, and that's sort of not what interests me, whether or not bloody molecules are prevented from travelling in the air by an obstacle. I would presume that they are. But what's interesting to me is the way that it will be enforced and the way that it's become politicised, the way that some people are claiming the mask as a kind of flag and others are claiming no mask as a type of flag. What is this constant polarisation? Here, what's this say? This person on Twitter goes, Tories refusing to wear masks is just natural selection at this point, and then that emoji, like that sort of someone despairingly hitting their head. Jules says, please make your arguments to the politicians who made this rule and not the slightly over minimum wage shop staff who end up enforcing it. It's a hard enough job already without additional stress. Ah, man. Noble protectors of the lowly. Man, if you're working at Tesco's or Sainsbury's, you're tough enough. You're tough enough. You've been through things that are difficult to imagine for people that haven't had those types of experiences. Me, I suppose, where I stand on the mask issue is I will politely wear a mask if that's what's required of me. But I would recognise at this point that many things are becoming ceremonial and ritualized as a result of the nihilism, lack of meaning, purpose and cohesion at the heart of our systems, as nationalism dies but is re-evoked by a sort of retroactive nationalist politics, as globalization creates more and more problems. And I believe we're witnessing the end of a certain type of globalism as people grapple for new identities and recognize that globalism is stripping us of so much, is increasing inequality, is increasing ecological meltdown. We will see the emergence of a new kind of tribalism, hopefully a type of tribalism that embraces confederacy as opposed to the kind of oppositionism and war that tribalism in its current form, even as exemplified by this to mask or not to mask issue, is demonstrating. If you feel that you feel better wearing a mask, or if you feel that you're around people that are vulnerable, you should wear a mask. But they say, don't they, that it is our obligation to break unjust laws. And I feel that we now live in such a bifurcated culture that there's almost no way to re-amend it. Consider the forthcoming American election. What is going to follow it? Whoever wins, how will you heal America? Think of this country that I'm in now, Britain. The fissures revealed by Brexit are being played out in all these peculiar dramas. For me, on practical issues, on medical issues, I defer to so-called experts. But when it comes to matters of freedom, liberty, and truth, I would say that what our culture is showing us is that it is no longer working. It can no longer accommodate us, and you can't put a mask on that.